Commissioner Burke. Commissioner Dunn.
Present.
Commissioner Arp.
Here.
Commissioner Gilmetti.
Present.
Commissioner Guardino. Commissioner Kehoe.
Here.
Commissioner Tavalloni. Commissioner Madaffer. Commissioner Van Konynenberg.
Here.
Senator Bell. Assemblymember Frazier. Chair Inman.
Chair is here. I forgot
We
my
have
name.
a quorum.
I think we're 3 days in a row, and we're on fatigue, so we're good. Good to go. Okay, we're going to start today with item 67. Terry?
Good morning, Commissioners. Items 67, 68, 69, and 70 are projects requesting supplemental allocations to award a contract. On all four projects, the cost increase is primarily due to the saturation of contractors in the market. Although in all cases, Caltrans had increased their estimates to reflect the upward trend, the lowest bids were still above the engineer's estimate. And if you look at it, the ranges are anywhere from about 30% to 85% more. Caltrans and Commission staff have reviewed these projects and concluded that re-advertising these projects would not result in lower bid prices. For that reason, Commission staff recommends Commission approval on items 67, 68, 69, and 70.
So moved.
A motion by Commissioner Alvarado, a second by Commissioner Kehoe. Is there discussion? Commissioner Gilmetti.
Just a comment, Lori. I'm just, again, as Commissioner Arp mentioned yesterday, cost in the construction industry are really going up. And I want to make sure that at least all the districts know that they need to be looking at their estimates a little closer.
Yeah, we'll be adjusting. We know that as a result of the fires and everything else, it's going up.
Any other discussions? I think my question on this goes back to yesterday, Lori, with I understand if the market's tight and the contractors are giving us higher prices, but I'm not sure the automatic 20% and the overhead costing more
So
would track.
Sure, we start out at the beginning with a typical cost per construction. As we refine the design, we'll refine the support costs, and that's what was going on yesterday.
But they're all the support costs seem to be going up, and a number of them. But I think what we all agreed yesterday was we'd have a little more explanation and make sure, because it's not necessarily that if your construction bid comes back 20% higher that your overhead's 20%.
No, and we go project by project. What you saw was a very small percentage yesterday of the overall number of projects that we put out. But some need more, we gather more information as we move along in the design process. We can certainly come back and explain more as to how that process works. I know Mike Keever did that at a previous commission meeting, and we can take a deeper dive in future workshops if that would be helpful.
I think so.
Chair, also just to point out on all four of these, there is no request for additional funding for support. All of these are just for the construction
but some
capital.
of the others do,
The ones
right?
yesterday, yes.
Well, except the additional costs, it has the G12, so it is a 20% more. So when you're saying there's nothing above the 20%, but there is 20%, and that was my point. I don't
Okay.
think necessarily that because your construction contract you thought was going to be $100 came in at $150, my overhead wouldn't change necessarily. I understand if the scope of work changes and I have to do a little more in terms of the administration.
But these were not changing the scope of work. We just need more money to award the contract.
Okay, so my question is, if you need more money for the contract, why do we need more money for overhead?
Well, they don't necessarily, so it may be partly is because in that book item, we do show what they have for G12 authority. They're not necessarily saying that they need that at this point, but they do have that amount to manage the construction contract.
And the G12 is only 10%, not 20%.
Oh, sorry. I was doubling the contingency that was in there already and then getting to the, sorry about
But
that.
on these particular ones, there is no increase in support. All of these are just asking for more money to
Okay.
be awarded.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Motion carried.
Okay, Commissioners, the next 5 items, numbers 71 through 75, are projects requesting supplemental allocations to complete construction. Item number 71 is a pavement rehab project located on State Route 36 in Tehama County. During design, the department had difficulties reconciling as-built of the roadway with the actual field conditions. This led to issues when the plans went out to construction and resulted in necessary design changes during construction. The expenditure of construction support was higher than anticipated. A supplemental construction support allocation of $825,000 is requested to complete construction. Commission staff has reviewed this allocation request and recommends commission approval. Second.
A motion by
we-
Commissioner
are-
Alvarado, a
I just want to
second.
clarify that we're only doing 71 right now.
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Alvarado, a second by Commissioner Dunn. Do we have any discussion? Commissioner Van Kynenberg, is that, we're clear? We're good? Okay. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Motion carries. Okay, we'll go to item 76.
Commission-
I
Oh,
just clarified that.
oh,
we were
70.
only
72.
doing 71.
I'm sorry. Thank you. I made too many check marks on my agenda, so now we'll go to 72.
Commissioners, item 72 is a permanent restoration project to repair slope failure on State Route 33 in Ventura County. Differing site conditions discovered during construction have resulted in project delays, item cost overruns, and extra work. The project is currently in its second construction season, and the same site condition exists this season, and the department needs to issue change order work to address these issues before work on the wall can be completed. A supplemental allocation of $3.8 million is requested to complete construction. Commission staff has reviewed this allocation request and recommends commission approval.
Have a motion by Commissioner Madaffer, a second by Commissioner Burke. Any discussion? All in favor? Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Terry, you're up.
Okay, Commissioners, I'm going to group items 73 and 74. They're roadway preservation projects on State Route 88 in Amador County. And these projects are located approximately 6 miles apart, and the scope of work is the same. The same contractor was awarded the contract for both projects. The contractor experienced delays in securing a reliable source of asphalt for these projects. In addition, construction was delayed due to severe winter weather events. Estimated as a 1 construction season job, these projects have been active for 3 seasons. The extended duration of construction has increased the construction support costs beyond the original cost estimate. Supplemental allocations for construction support are requested for these projects to complete construction. Commission staff has reviewed the allocation requests and recommends commission approval for both items 72 and 73.
Right.
Sorry, 73 and 74.
Now I have you mixed up with
yeah.
the numbers. Sorry about that. Okay. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Alvarado, a second by Commissioner Dunn. Is there any discussion?
I have.
Yes.
Terry, could you elaborate a little bit more on when you said trouble securing materials for the project? Could you elaborate on what the contractor originally intended to do and what they chose to do?
Yes, in fact, Dennis Agar, I believe, is here from the department to follow up on that for you.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. Dennis Agar, District 10 Director. In regards to the contractor having trouble getting supplies for the AC, first season, there were a lot of other contracts going at that location. The AC supply wasn't available at that time. This is August of 2016, the first season. And the contractor decided to establish his own AC plant in Calaveras County. And that took some time to get that up and running and certified before the first season at that time.
I understood that there was available, the contractor just didn't want to pay the price that was being put in the marketplace?
I don't know exactly why the contractor decided that, but the contractor did decide to put his own AC plant and get it
What
up and
steps were
running.
done by your staff to mitigate and bring this, to try to hurry this contractor along?
So the first season, and just give a better understanding of what happened, by the time the contractor got the AC plant running and certified and started paving, we only had 9 days of paving that was allowed, and the winter storms came in early that season. So it was in suspension. The second season came along, and they were able to get their paving operations started in August 2017. Unfortunately, the production rate wasn't meeting the expectations that Caltrans had. They weren't able to complete the final lift on that second season. Again, by the time they got to October, the winter storm came and hit. During that time frame, Caltrans was very concerned about the production rate and finishing up the job in the second season. We did put stop notices out there. We did send letters to the bonding company with our concerns that they may or may not complete the project that second season.
How, in retrospect, could this problem have this contractor been managed differently?
Differently?
I mean, when contracts start to go south, we manage them, but we can't start directing them what to do. We have partnering projects. We work with partnering facilitators to try and make sure issues are being resolved at the lowest possible level. But we can't be directing contractors what to do, or we buy that problem for ourselves. So I think Dennis did all the right things. I think notifying the bonding company is a very strong thing to do, and if you talk to contractors, that is not something they want us to do. That impacts their ability to do work for anybody in the future. I think the district did what they could do, given the constraints that we have of not getting into the position of directing the contractor and making it our project. What is it that you wanted us to do differently, I guess?
Well, the reality is that when the contract was let on this project, they were going to buy AC from an established vendor. And then they made the decision to put in a batch plant, which then they missed their first season. Then they missed the second season because that was their issues. And now they've missed the third, they're missing the third season. Are our liquidated damages against them going to cover these support costs?
So yes, it went from 45 working days to 115 days, which they incurred liquidated damages in the range for both projects about $3 million.
Right. Is that going to cover these additional support costs and the additional costs on the project?
Unfortunately, we can't. We did look into that to see if these liquidated damages could pay for support costs, but based on our budget laws, we're not able to do that.
I think this brings up some real policy questions. The rest of the contracting community is aware of this issue and is quite outraged that they don't feel that they would never be allowed to get away with this. This is an out-of-state contractor who came in, who tried to do something, and they're very successful where they are in the Midwest, and they have not put any resources to fix this problem. And so they've just kind of dinged us along. Meanwhile, the residents who are up there and the businesses that are up there have been put out. The other work that was supposed to be done along 88 has had to work around these people. This is really maybe, Lori, if everything was done that could have been done, then we need to have at the higher level, we need to have a policy discussion about why we can't go after liquidated damages and liquidate for the support costs, because that's back on the taxpayer, who the taxpayer did nothing wrong. And the second event is, if this contractor was the low bid tomorrow on a job, we'd have to take them. So we need to have another policy discussion about other states
That's the state contract.
Other states don't have just low bid, but also they have a scoring on what their capabilities and their past performance are, and those two come together to score whether they're successful for a job.
Commissioner, if I may, can I clarify one point that
Yes,
Dennis
Steve.
made? So the liquidated damages will be received by the state and deposited into the state highway account. So we will receive funding based on whatever the final outcome is of liquidated damages. We cannot directly apply that to the support costs, but it will reimburse the state highway account for those costs. It's a weird budget nuance.
Well, I don't know how
It's-
rest of my commissioners
same-
feel,
same-
but this one, I'm sorry, it just doesn't, I'm not sure, if you're convinced that you did everything correct, I've spoken with staff, but this one just feels like it wasn't managed as well as it could have been. So, and I don't know what our staff, who's spent more time on it, Stephen, if you have any comments on this.
Well, as Stephen Keck indicated, in the end, the state highway account is going to be reimbursed to some extent. I don't know if it's going to be dollar for dollar, but at least there's going to be some pain borne by the contractor, and under the state contracting laws, it's awarded to the lowest responsible bidder. And I would say that this guy hasn't been very responsible. So in the end, if he bids again, I think the department does have recourse not to be awarding to him.
Then you have to have a responsibility hearing. That's another legal issue. I'd be happy to have legal come back and explain how that works. That's not a decision Dennis gets to make on his own. And it's a nuclear reaction. And we have to, we can certainly discuss how that process works as well. Most of our contractors we work really well with. They understand Caltrans expectations. Some come in and don't. We work with them to try and get the job done. Certainly, the districts understand the impacts to the traveling public of not getting a job done in a timely manner. And sometimes we have contractors who just can't seem to perform. And I think that, we can certainly come back with more explanation in a general. I don't think it's a good idea right now to discuss project specific while we're still trying to address what will be legal issues with this contractor.
Well, I was only addressing what in the future might be happening with this contractor. And yes, we can have legal explain to us how you determine that somebody's not responsible, but that's only if he bids again.
And that's an issue I was going to bring up. That's a conversation you need to have internally in Caltrans, whether this guy should come back or not. And hopefully, we can't tell you to do that, and I'm sure that if George was here, he'd tell me to shut my mouth, but, lessons learned. And again, and I've said it before, as we go out into the market, we're putting a lot of money out there. We've got to manage the way that money goes out so that the local in-state contractors have a chance to grow and not start bringing in people from Arizona, Nevada, and Oregon, because they're just waiting. And that's one of my biggest peeves. Okay.
Commissioner
I want to go on record.
Medford?
Had this contractor performed, I don't have any problem with a contractor who's qualified coming in and performing. What the problem is this contractor has not performed, and it's not because they don't have the resources to do it. It's because they chose to allocate their resources other places in the United States and not come in and make this happen. And so this contractor, and I think it calls once again, Joe Tavaloni has sat next to me for a year and has complained about how when the contractors don't perform, it's very, very difficult to reimburse the taxpayers for what the taxpayers have been burdened and paid extra. And this screams that. Number two, this also says we should have a conversation. Director Berman just said getting someone qualified as not responsible takes an act of Congress. Because the way our bidding system in California is done, it always goes low bidder, and to get out of that rut takes a long term. So maybe we need, in our comments to the legislature this year, we need to talk about going forward if we have a component in our bidding system which has their past performance and their capabilities, not just the low bidder.
Commissioner Medford?
Well, first I want to thank Commissioner Van Cronenberg for bringing up these issues, and I know it's frustrating for us to hear them, and I can see both sides of it. I hear the idea, the need for a responsibility hearing and all these other things that come down the line. It sounds to me like what we really need to be focusing on, and perhaps between Director Berman and Director Branson, they could look at some potential along with their respective staffs, what might be some recommended policy changes to help alleviate these kind of things. It's pretty obvious to me the taxpayers have bought this contractor a new batch plant. from what I'm hearing. But at the same time, you know, we've got two sides of this. We also know that we've got a lot of work coming forward, and the more contractors, the better. The more responsible contractors, the better. And so there's pros and cons, and I also agree with Commissioner Alvarado. We want to make sure we take care of the locals in the state as much as possible. But it really gets to me down to some policy issues that need to be looked at, which would include some legislative changes, I believe. And obviously that's what this commission does. We advise the legislature. I think we should do that in partnership with Caltrans. But I don't want to diminish the very serious issues that Commissioner Van Cronenberg has brought up. They are serious. It's an abomination that a project that Caltrans originally thought would take one season is stretched to 3 and beyond, perhaps. There doesn't seem to be really any penalties. I understand the bond noticing may be a bad thing for contractors. But, you know, I think the people of the state of California, as Mr. Mahler indicated with the responsible word, deserve a little bit more control on how we pick these contractors in the future. And there should be some sanctions. And I think legislatively, we ought to look at a change to where, in fact, overhead and other things can be assessed as part of liquidated damages. So we would be able to see it. It seems to me as though those would be some legislative changes. I don't know if they're simple or not, but it's things that we should at least recommend.
Commissioner Arp?
With regard to this particular item, I am total support of the recommendations and the viewpoints that have been expressed. I think it's important to look from a taxpayer standpoint globally. This is not typical of what is going on in Caltrans, and it's not typical of what's going on in the contractor community. When there are those that step out of line, when there's bad apples, if this one turns out to be a bad apple, then we should fix it. But I think that we should keep in mind that in terms of our overall program, it's a good program, and we have very competitive and very qualified contractors doing the vast majority of the work in California.
Any further discussion, Director Berman?
I appreciate the comments of Commissioner Arp. You see the projects that don't go well. So I think it leaves everybody with an impression that we've got huge problems to solve. Our biggest problem right now is we've got a huge construction program ahead of us. Our local agencies have a huge construction program ahead of us. We need to be working with our construction partners in the industry, 99% of whom do a great job for us, and we need to be sure that we're not, encourage. We need more people, frankly, to come, contractors to be working in California. And so I would just urge caution before we change a program that's generally working. Most contractors, Nevada's nearby, Arizona's nearby. There's other places they can work. I'm hoping they'll choose to work with California, with Caltrans.
I want to let you know that the reason why, in addition to the ongoing conversations I had with District 10 staff, I've had ongoing other contractors who are appalled by this behavior of this contractor. So yes, the vast majority of contractors in California are doing great work and fantastic work, and we see that. And so this is an outlier and anomaly, but it's still frustrating what this, I think Mr. Medaffer put it, if they had just gone and bought the AC but they didn't want to do that. They wanted to build their own batch plant, and that would have changed a lot of things in this process. So.
Okay, any further discussion? We have a motion on the floor. All in favor?
Madam Chair, I just want to
I'm
make sure
sorry.
incorporated in the motion is at least some direction that we can see if there's some policy recommendations that might further improve the process. But I have to agree with Director Berman. It's 99.8% is good, but I do think it's important that we look at some potential policy changes that would help, again, on accountability and on behalf of the taxpayers.
Okay, so that's a friendly amendment to the motion. Are we good with that? Motion we
I
good?
think we pretty well talked it to death. They have a direction. They've all agreed to it. I don't see where we even need to put it in the motion. We understand it.
Commissioner Kehoe, go ahead.
Jim, are you
we've given direction to staff, they get it, so let's
think they
just
hear it,
move
yeah.
the motion.
Move the motion
Okay.
as it is.
Okay, so the motion's going to move as is. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to 75. Terry?
Commissioners, item 75 is a roadway rehabilitation project located on State Route 12 in San Joaquin County on Bolden Island. During construction, there have been ongoing issues with differential and severe soil settlements. Work necessary to address these issues is the largest contributor to the cost increase. A supplemental allocation of $6.7 million is requested to complete construction. Commission staff has reviewed this allocation request and recommends commission approval.
Have a motion by Commissioner Gilmetti, a second by Commissioner Van Konynenberg. Is there discussion on this item? Yes, Commissioner.
So, I want to commend, this is literally one of the most difficult jobs I think I've ever seen of a roadway construction, because for those of you who don't know, this island goes up and down 8 inches during the year. So when you survey one day, the survey may be totally different the next day. And so they did some innovative things here, and even though this has gone over budget, there was this is the only time I can look at something where it went over budget and said they did a really good job, because it's really the most challenging. In the Delta there where you're building on peat, it's about the hardest thing you can do. So kudos to them.
Any further comments? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. We'll move on to item 76.
Commissioners, item number 76 is a department action item requesting approval for a 40-year airspace lease with Holiday Development. The proposed freeway lease is a 62,000 square foot undeveloped parcel under Interstate 880 at the West Grand Avenue and Frontage Road on-ramp. In October 2016, the Commission unanimously approved a request to allow the department to directly negotiate a long-term airspace lease with Holiday Development. The lease is in the best interest of the state. The approval requires a unanimous vote by the Commission. Commission staff has reviewed this item and recommends Commission approval.
Have a motion by Commissioner Gilmetti, a second by Commissioner Madaffer. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries unanimously, as we needed to. Thank you. Duly noted. That was a unanimous vote. Terry?
Good. Commissioners, item 77 is a department action item requesting amendment of 40 new projects and revision to 3 currently programmed projects in the 2018 shop. 35 of the 40 projects proposed for amendment are either major damage restoration or traffic safety projects. The remaining 5 projects are roadway preservation or mobility, which are primary asset classes in the Transportation Asset Management Plan. Commission staff has reviewed the 2018 shop amendments and recommends Commission approval.
So moved.
I have a motion by Commissioner Dunn, a second by Commissioner Alvarado. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries.
Commissioners, item 78 is a department action item requesting to add 8 new projects into the 2016 shop. The 8 projects are major damage emergency projects that began work before June 30th and therefore are included in the 2016 shop. Commission staff has reviewed this item and recommends Commission approval.
Second.
Have a motion by Commissioner Alvarado, a second by Commissioner Gardino. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Motion carries. Okay, item 79. Teresa.
Commissioners, item 79 is an information item. This is a STIP amendment for notice.
It's information only item, so I'm okay. I've been told.
It's in October. The San Bernardino County Transportation Authority proposes a STIP amendment to program an AB 3090 cash reimbursement in order to advance the construction of the Redlands Passenger Rail Project in San Bernardino County. This project has congested corridors funding as well as local partnership funding, and they are both programmed in 1819. The STIP funding is programmed in 2021. They are ready to proceed with the project and will be requesting an allocation advance of STIP funds in the October Commission meeting. If they are unable to receive the STIP advance, they will proceed with the AB 3090 cash reimbursement as noticed in this item. If we proceed with AB 3090, staff will work with the agency on a payment schedule a little bit different than what it is noticed. Again, this is just for notice and no action is required at this time.
Information only on that one, so we'll move. Item 80 has been withdrawn. We will go to item 81, and it is day 2, so we should be good.
Thank you. Item 81 is also a STIP amendment for notice and information item. The Kern County Council of Governments proposes a STIP amendment to program an AB 3090 cash reimbursement in order to advance the construction of the West Side Parkway State Route 58 Connector Mainline Project in Kern County. The project is programmed in the STIP in 1920. They are ready to proceed this fiscal year and will use their local funds to advance the project. Staff supports this amendment and will work with Kern County on a repayment schedule. Again, this is just for notice and will be coming back for action at the October Commission meeting.
I have a question.
Yes.
So
Commissioner.
on item 79 and 81, it talks about a 3-year period. Is staff still good on the 3-year as?
I am working on a repayment schedule that is longer than 3 years, and yes.
Oh, okay.
It will be a slightly different.
Okay, maybe you can explain that explain that whole process at some point.
Right. STIP guidelines allow for a repayment schedule to start the year after the project is programmed.
Okay.
In this particular case, we are starting the repayment schedule on the year it is programmed. So technically, we can go 4 years because the STIP guidelines allow it. It will provide us for more flexibility and not tie up the funds in that one fiscal year.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Teresa. That was information as well. We'll move on to item 82.
Item 82 is also a STIP amendment for notice, information item. Caltrans and the San Diego Council of Governments proposes a STIP amendment to split the State Route 11 Siempre Viva Interchange Commercial Vehicle Enforcement Facility and Tolling Border Wait Time System project into 2 segments. This project is programmed using Border Infrastructure Funds, otherwise known as BIP funds. This amendment is necessary to align the programming of the project with the Trade Corridors Enhancement Program. This is for notice and will be coming back in October for action.
Do we have any questions? If not, that was information. We'll move on to the next item, 83.
Item 83 is a STIP amendment for notice, and similar to the tab 82, Caltrans and San Diego Council of Governments are proposing to split their Otay Mesa East Port of Entry Segment 3 project into 2 segments. Again, this one has also BIP funds, and it is necessary to align the project with the Trade Corridor Enhancement Program. No action is necessary.
Commissioner Kehoe? No. Oh, I thought you wanted to say something. No comment. Okay, that was information only. So we will keep moving here. We're up with Lori.
Good morning, Commissioners. Item 84 is an action item to approve a scope change request for the Pico Rivera Regional Bikeway project in the city of Pico Rivera. The 2019 Active Transportation Program guidelines state that any ATP scope changes must be presented to Caltrans for consideration prior to allocation, and Caltrans will make a recommendation of approval or of non-approval to the Commission. Scope changes that involve more significant changes to the project will be brought forward to the Commission as a project amendment. The City of Pico Rivera submitted a scope change request for the Pico Rivera Regional Bikeway projects following the process adopted by the Commission in August of 2016. The original scope of the project consisted of installing a bicycle pedestrian bridge, Class 2 bike lanes, a Class 1 shared use path, traffic calming medians, sidewalks, curb ramps, signal modifications, and wayfinding signage. The scope change request involves essentially two elements. The city is proposing to move the bike pedestrian bridge over the San Gabriel River about 2,600 feet north of the original location. The reason for this move is for added safety by avoiding a Union Pacific Railroad crossing and for added security to the LA County Flood Control Facility. The other major change is to upgrade approximately 1.25 miles of Class 2 bike lanes to a Class 1 bike facility protected by bioswales on both sides. Caltrans local assistance engineers have been working with the city to refine this revised scope such that it will maintain or increase the project's benefits. Patricia Chen with LA Metro has also been providing assistance to work through these scope issues. Caltrans recommends supporting the scope change because it will result in little or no impact to the overall active transportation benefits and will provide an increase to the bicycling benefits. Also, we received a letter of support from the Bike San Gabriel Valley that you have as a yellow, and we've actually received other letters of support from other community groups since then that were not able to make it into the meeting book. Commission staff supports the Caltrans recommendation and recommends that the Commission approve this scope amendment.
Have a motion by Commissioner Burke, a second by Commissioner Mandaffer. Thank you. Okay, is there discussion on this? No discussion. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Oh, wait, just 1 second. I do have a public speaker request. Did you really want to say something?
Good morning, Commission. I'm the city manager for the city of Pico Rivera. I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank Caltrans staff, CTC staff, and the Commission for your consideration of this item. It's an important project for the city of Pico Rivera. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. Okay, so we will move on now. Garth?
Did you have 85?
85.
Oh, 85. Sorry, Teresa.
Item 85 is an action item. This is a letter of no prejudice request for the Transit and Intercity Rail Capital Program. This is for the Los Angeles Region Transit System Integration and Modernization Program projects, Gold Line Foothill Extension to Montclair component in the Los Angeles and San Bernardino counties. Since this is a very large project and funds for the program become available through future auctions and SB1 proceeds, LAMTA would like to use their Measure M and R funds to start the project. LAMTA proposes a repayment schedule over 5 years as listed in the yellow replacement item. This request is consistent with the LOMP guidelines. Staff recommends the approval.
Have a motion by Commissioner Burke, a second by Commissioner Dunn. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now 86, Garth?
Sure, Commissioners, tab 86 is an informational item. Mary Beth Herritt, the acting chief for the Caltrans Division of Aeronautics, will be giving a brief overview on the fiscal year 2017-18 fourth quarter report on airport grant programs administered by the Division of Aeronautics. Also, in addition, tab 87 is an action item, and following the presentation that Caltrans also presented tab 87 the proposed list of aeronautics acquisition and development program projects to the commission at our June meeting. This was the draft list. Today, the department is seeking commission approval on the 2018 aeronautics acquisition and development program projects. Staff has reviewed the list of projects for the 2018 aeronautics acquisition and development program and would recommend your approval. With that, we'll turn it over to Mary Beth for a really quick overview.
Good morning, Commissioners. The fourth quarter report is to provide a status of the projects that were approved in previous years. There are, in your attachment, there are the list of the projects that are currently approved, and two have extended their completion date. We have not, we have in this biennial program no more projects to award for this fiscal year, so that's the status of the program as it is right now. We have 3 grant programs that we manage, and this is our third priority with the funds that we receive from the aeronautics funds.
Okay, so that was item 86, correct,
86,
that you presented?
yes.
Okay, now
Correct.
Garth, you want to move to 87?
Okay, I have a question.
Oh, okay, certainly.
You know, we used to have TACA that followed the general aviation airports. How are we doing that now? Susan?
There was a decision that was made several years ago to only convene the TACA at a time when the commission requested. The commission's Committee on Aeronautics requested to convene TACA, and at this point in time, we have not had that request. So our staff has been working with Mary Beth and the Caltrans staff on this program, and I think too, a couple of years ago, the commission refined its guidance for these programs, and so that's been working effectively. Yeah.
Okay, Garth, so
Oh.
do you want to present your
Okay,
recommendation for 87?
87?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the department, as I said, the department is seeking commission approval on the 2018 aeronautics acquisition and development projects, and we have reviewed that list of projects, discussed it with aeronautics staff, and staff would recommend your approval.
Have a motion by Commissioner Gometti, a second by Commissioner Alvarado. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. Okay, we'll go to 88, and I believe you want to take 90 as well. So we're going to do 88 and 90 together.
Correct. Commissioners, items 88 and 90 are department action items requesting an allocation of $1.18 billion for 80 shop projects. Please note there are a few technical corrections included on the change list. Commission staff has reviewed the projects for conformity with their programming in the 2018 shop and consistency with the Transportation Asset Management Plan and recommends commission approval.
Okay. Whoa. I got to give some protein to my team here. Okay, there was a motion by Commissioner Gometti and
I seconded it.
Oh, you did? Okay, thank you, Carl. So we're good. I think there's a question by Commissioner Van Konynenberg.
So, as these shop items relate to the asset management plan, I guess when we looked at the shop earlier in the year, I had an expectation that many of the pavement projects would be more in the fair range, and we have some big projects where it's good and fair. Are we still following that pretty closely in terms of how that is put together and how these are going to be in the outcomes, which I guess we're going to see at our next meeting?
Correct. You'll see that at the next meeting, and I think it was brought up yesterday. You know, if they're doing a 5-mile paving project, for example, that with multiple lanes, you've got various lanes with various condition, but they have to come in and do the entire stretch. So that's where you're getting the fair
That
and
makes
poor.
sense.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Okay, now we'll go catch 89, Terry.
Okay. Commissioners, item 89 is a department action item requesting an allocation of pre-construction support of $118 million for 126 2018 shop pre-construction support phases. Commission staff has reviewed the projects for conformity with their programming in the 2018 shop and the Transportation Asset Management Plan and recommends commission approval.
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Dunn, a second by Commissioner Kehoe. Is there any discussion on this? Yes.
I have a
Commissioner.
question on number 31, the ramps in Santa Maria. It, are we having, it looks like there's a big right-of-way in PS&E on that one. Are we having to expand an intersection, or that seemed a little higher than normal for when we're doing curb, ADA ramps and things like that?
Unless someone from the department can follow up with that, I'd be more than happy to find out and get back to you on that. I don't know the particulars on that one.
I see Bruce DeTerra coming forward.
And Tim just left, so.
Yes.
Oops.
I can go run and see. I can run and see if I can catch Tim, but ADA projects in general have a higher cost on that we run into a lot of issues on some of those. So that may be why it's higher than what you're expecting.
This is support costs and right-of-way and support just seemed really high. So I didn't know if there was something special on this one, but it seemed a little out of whack with the other ones that were in the package that we're voting on. That's why I asked.
Okay. Yeah, we'd have to investigate the particulars of this project.
Could you let us know?
Yes,
Thank
we
you.
will let you know.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. Okay, now we already did 90, we'll do 91.
Commissioners, item 91 is a department action item requesting an advance for a construction allocation of $22.2 million for a shop project in San Diego County. Commission staff has reviewed this project for conformity with programming in the 2018 shop and consistency with the Transportation Asset Management Plan and recommends commission approval.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Madaffer, a second by Commissioner Kehoe. Is there any discussion? Commissioner von Koneinenberg, is your light on? It isn't now. Okay. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. Okay, so item 92, we were going to move to October 2023, I think. Just kidding.
Steve Hammond will be very disappointed.
I'm just
'Cause
kidding.
I
This
can't
is a
retire.
public meeting, I realize that. But
I
for
can't
those,
retire and he can't retire.
Hey, that'd be good. Okay, this could work. Okay, I'm just kidding, and this is a legal process, so I shouldn't. But anyway, for those of you that don't know, this is Stephen Mahler's last presentation here, so listen up.
All right, Commissioners, item 92 is an action item. It's an allocation of $1 million to the Bay Area Toll Authority for the seismic retrofit program. This has a long story. I was actually after Stephen Keck for 10 years to do this allocation, and he refused because he said it was going to his retirement fund. But in the end, he had to become the chief financial officer and out of budgets, and I finally persuaded budgets to present this allocation to you. This is the last $1 million out of the Prop 192 funds of $790 million that were to go to the Toll Bridge Seismic Retrofit Program. This is the last $1 million, and I'm happy to recommend to you that you do this allocation. That should have been done 10 years ago.
Move approval.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Gardino, a second by Commissioner Alvarado, and Stephen Keck, did you want to contribute to that, or?
It's all true except for the retirement part.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. But Stephen, could you come forward, please?
You're not going to get the $1 million, but
Yeah.
I think you're going to get something.
So, just so you don't forget us, we thought the most meaningful thing we could give you would be a copy of an agenda item. So, lest you forget how much fun we've all had together. So, here you go. 10 years late, according to you, but we got it done. I know. Well, this is what we could do. So, there you go. Thank you, Stephen, from all of us. I don't know, without our bridge guy, life's not going to be the same for us, Stephen. But here we go. We will try to move on. So, item 93, Teresa.
Commissioners, item 93 is an action item. This is a STIP allocation request for a locally administered on-system project. This request is for the State Route 60 truck climbing descending lanes project in Riverside County for $31,555,000. Staff has reviewed this request, finds it consistent with STIP guidelines and the program. Staff recommends your approval.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Gometti and a second by Commissioner Medaffer. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Anybody opposed? Sorry for that rumbling. I hope she wasn't thrown out, but seems lots of folks were watching baseball last night, huh, Mr. Valinsky? Anyway, all in favor? Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. Okay, I am going to recuse myself and pass the floor to Vice Chairman Arp as my employer, Majestic Realty. We're on 94. We're on 94, sorry. I am going to recuse myself as my employer, Majestic Realty, has property in the proximity of the Tracy project on this, so. Oh, we're going to do 98 at the same time, and then I won't have to run back and forth, so I will be recused twice for 2 items.
You have a lot of monopoly property on this. Okay, so item 94, is Teresa going to make a presentation?
I'm waiting for Commissioner to walk out. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Item 94 is an action item. This is a STIP allocation request for a locally administered off-system projects, actually multiple projects. This financial request is for $18,019,019 for 25 STIP projects off the state highway system. They include 21 projects for planning, programming, and monitoring, and 4 local projects in various counties. Staff has reviewed this request and finds it consistent with STIP guidelines and the program, and staff recommends your approval.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any question? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Okay, I think we're going to skip to 98, and it looks like you have that one too.
I sure do.
Okay.
Commissioners, item 98 is an action item. This is a financial allocation request of $122,473,000 for 11 projects included in the Transit and Intercity Rail program. Because these projects are from 2 different programming cycles, the 2016 and 2019, I would like to make the following recommendations. For Project 1, the increased rail service to Roseville project in Placer County, program in cycle 2016, staff recommends approval of the PS&E for $2 million. For projects 2 and 11, these projects are programmed in the 2018 cycle. CalSTA and Caltrans have not yet provided the Commission an update to the program list identifying the components and the delivery years. Therefore, for these projects, Project 2 through 11, programming the 2018 cycle, staff recommends approval with the condition that they provide staff by August 30th a program update identifying the components and the delivery year of each project that was awarded in the 2018 cycle. This program update will be presented to the Commission at the October meeting. In addition, staff will be working with CalStat and the department on a reporting mechanism that will report the progress of the projects on a semi-annual basis. Staff recommends your approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion. I was waiting for the chair to move this along. Sorry. We have a motion by Commissioner Burke and a second by Commissioner Madaffer. Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, we're going to start then with 95.
Okay, Commissioners, item 95 is an action item. This is a STIP allocation for an AB 3090 reimbursement in Los Angeles County. Staff has reviewed this request and finds it consistent with the STIP guidelines and the program. Staff recommends your approval.
Have a motion by Commissioner Burke, a second by Commissioner Arp. Is there discussion? Yes, Commissioner.
So how many year reimbursement is this going to be? Repayment?
This one was programmed I have my orange book here somewhere. It was programmed in a couple of cycles, STIP cycles ago, and it was a 4 reimbursement. This is the second of the 3. Actually, it was a 3. This is the second one, and next year will come for their final one.
So in the end, it'll be 3 years?
Yes.
Okay.
Item 96. Yes? Oh, sorry.
All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. We'll go to 96.
Commissioners, item 96 is an action item. This is a STIP allocation request for a locally administered rail project. Actually, 2 rail projects for $4,177,000. One is in Orange County and the second one is in San Diego County. The agencies are ready to proceed and are requesting an allocation at this time. Staff has reviewed the request and finds it consistent with STIP guidelines and the program. Staff recommends your approval.
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Dunn, a second by Commissioner Madaffer. Is there discussion on this? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Motion carries. Item 97 was withdrawn. 98 you already took up, I believe, in my absence. 99 was withdrawn, so that takes us to item 100. Matthew.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tab 100 is an action item to approve a local partnership competitive program allocation of $17 million for the Matilda Avenue improvement at State Route 237 and US 101 project on the state highway system in Santa Clara County, programmed in fiscal year 2018-19. Staff has reviewed this request, and the item is consistent with the local partnership program guidelines and the adopted competitive program. Therefore, staff recommends your approval.
Have a motion by Commissioner Alvarado, a second by Commissioner Gometti. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Okay, that motion carries. 101.
Commissioners, item 101 is an action item to approve allocations which total $16,300,000 for 3 projects off the state highway system. 1 local partnership formulaic program in Riverside County which is programmed in 2018-19, and 2 local partnership competitive program projects in Yolo and Los Angeles counties, both programmed in fiscal year 2018-19. Staff has reviewed these requests, and the item is consistent with program guidelines and the adopted formulaic and competitive programs. Therefore, staff recommends your approval.
Have a motion by Commissioner Arp, a second by Commissioner Dunn. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? That motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to 102.
Commissioners, tab 102 is an action item to approve allocations which total $26,701,000 for 2 local partnership formulaic mass transit projects in Los Angeles County programmed in fiscal year 2018-19. Staff has reviewed these requests, and the item is consistent with program guidelines and the adopted formulaic program. Therefore, staff recommends your approval of item 102.
Okay, we had a motion by Commissioner Burke, a second by Commissioner Alvarado. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. Okay, Matthew, you're still up. 103.
103. So, Commissioners, item 103 is an action item to approve a Trade Corridor Enhancement Program allocation request of $4,200,000 for the US 101 State Route 25 Interchange Phase 1 project on the state highway system in Santa Clara County. Staff has reviewed this request and finds it consistent with program guidelines. Staff recommends your approval.
Have a motion by Commissioner Alvarado, a second by Commissioner Gometti. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Motion carries. Okay, item 104, Matthew.
Item 104 is an action item to approve a Trade Corridor Enhancement Program allocation request of $11,710,000 for 3 state-administered projects on the state highway system in Imperial and San Diego counties. Staff has reviewed these requests and finds them consistent with the program guidelines. Staff recommends your approval.
Have a motion by Commissioner Madaffer, a second by Commissioner Pico. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the order or the vote. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. Item 105, Matthew.
Commissioners, item 105 is an action item to approve a Trade Corridor Enhancement Program allocation request of $7 million for the locally implemented Etiwanda Avenue grade separation rail project in San Bernardino County. Staff has reviewed this request and finds it consistent with the program guidelines. Staff recommends your approval.
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Dunn, a second by Commissioner Kehoe. Is there discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. Moving on, Matthew, 106.
Just a few more from me. Item 106 is an action item to approve a local partnership formulaic program allocation request of $3 million and a STIP allocation request of $300,000 for construction of the Green Valley Road Widening Project in Sacramento County. Staff has reviewed these requests and finds them consistent with each program's guidelines. Staff recommends your approval.
Second.
I had a motion by Commissioner Gilmetti and a second by Commissioner Kehoe. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Motion carries. Item 107.
Commissioners, item 107 is an action item to approve a Trade Corridor Enhancement Program allocation request of $24,292,000 and a STIP allocation request of $9,333,000 for construction of the Route 395 widening project from State Route 18 to Chamberlain Way on the state highway system in San Bernardino County. Staff has reviewed these requests and finds them consistent with program guidelines. Staff recommends your approval.
So moved.
Have a motion that was made by Commissioner Burke, a second by Commissioner Dunn. Is there discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? No. Okay, 108.
Commissioners, item 108 is an action item to approve a Solutions for Congested Corridors program allocation request of $195 million and an advanced STIP allocation request of $71,078,000 for construction engineering and construction of the I-5 North Coast Corridor HOV Extension Phase 1 in Encinitas project on the state highway system in San Diego County. Staff has reviewed these requests and finds them consistent with program guidelines and recommends your approval.
Whoa, we got a little quick out of the gate there. So after, we had a move by Commissioner Kehoe, a motion, and a second by Commissioner Madaffer. Discussion, yes, Commissioner.
Question. Teresa, talk about the STIP advancements. What policy is that falling under that we're advancing STIPs on?
Right now, the policy for advancing the STIP funds is for projects that have SB1 funding that are programmed in current year. As you recall, when you adopted the 2018 STIP, the STIP funds were programming certain years. Later, when the SB1 programs were programmed, they were in different years. So this is really the only way to align, and the project is ready to proceed.
Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Kehoe.
I think I can speak for Commissioner Madaffer and myself. Thank you so much to Caltrans, the CTC staff, and to Sandag for moving this along. This is a major construction project. This is an important item, but it also includes double tracking. It includes dredging 2 coastal lagoons and adding, ATP projects and multimodal projects related to the freeway corridor. So we think it's one of the most important construction projects going forward in San Diego, and some of us had a chance to tour it a couple of meetings ago. So we just want to express our thanks.
Any further comments? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. We'll move on to item 109. Matthew.
In Commissioners, item 109 is an action item to approve a Solutions for Congested Corridors program allocation request of $33,200,000 for construction and an advanced STIP allocation request of $14,268,000 for right-of-way and construction of the Silicon Valley Express Lanes Program Phase 3 project on the state highway system in Santa Clara County. Staff has reviewed these requests and finds them consistent with program guidelines. Staff recommends your approval.
Okay, we had a motion by Commissioner Gilmetti, a second by Commissioner Van Konynenberg. Is there discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. Item 110, Lori.
Commissioners, item 110 is an action item. This item is to approve an allocation of $3,544,000 for 12 active transportation program projects. 10 of these allocations, $3,213,000, are being funded with SB1 funds, including $185,000 for the City of Berkeley Sacramento Street Complete Streets Improvement Project. This project will provide a safer bicycle and pedestrian environment for those commuting to and from the North Berkeley BART station. Staff has reviewed these requests. They are consistent with ATP guidelines. Therefore, staff recommends your approval.
Move approval.
We have a motion by Commissioner Gardino and a second by Commissioner Dunn, I believe. So is there discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. Item 111 was withdrawn. We will move to item 112. Lori?
Yes, Commissioners, item 112 is an action item. This is to approve 2 contract award time extensions. They are consistent with ATP guidelines, and staff recommends approval as shown on the yellow time extension table.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Burke, a second by Commissioner Gilmetti, I believe. So, all in favor? Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. Item 113, Lori?
Yes, Commissioners, this is an action item to approve project completion time extensions for 3 ATP projects. Staff has reviewed the 3 project completion time extensions for the projects in item 113. They are consistent with ATP guidelines, and staff recommends approval as shown on the yellow time extension table.
We have a motion by Commissioner Burke, a second by Commissioner Madaffer. Is there discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. Okay, item 114 was withdrawn, so that takes us to item 115. Lori?
Yes, so finally, item 115, this is an action item to approve a project expenditure time extension for the John Yee Hall Chin Safe Routes to School project in San Francisco County. Staff has reviewed this request. It is consistent with ATP guidelines, and staff recommends approval as shown on the yellow time extension table.
Have a motion by Commissioner Gometti, a second by Commissioner Madaffer. Is there discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Motion carries. Okay, it's time for public comment. Do we have any members of the public that wish to comment?
I'm not as a public person, but I
Okay,
do.
Commissioner Harp.
I just wanted to close with the little observation. This dates me a little bit, but some of the older folks in the audience may remember a cartoon figure named Wimpy, whose favorite line was, "I will gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today." There's a lot of talk right now these days about contract costs and so forth, and anything that we can do to make sure that we are tracking the money and keeping costs contained is completely appropriate. But I also remember a time early in my tenure as a commissioner when we were allocating money from Prop 1B funds, and it was in the middle of a deep recession. And there were a lot of contractors that were striving diligently just to stay alive and to keep their best employees on the payroll, and were often submitting bids for projects either at or below their own cost, just to try to keep some money flowing through and see if there was going to be a better day. That was probably one of the best things about Prop 1B, was that the timing, not only were the projects good, but the timing was awesome to keep a lot of our contracting community alive. And so today they're doing a little better. Some of them didn't make it through that, and other ones did. But I can remember a few times during budget crunches when the cash flow was stopped, when there wasn't going to be any money paid on these contracts until a budget was completed and approved by the legislature, or until various bond issues were taken care of. So there were cash flow problems at various times in which the contractor was basically asked by the state, "We will gladly pay you Tuesday if you will finish the job today." And they did. They did the work. They did it without pay at the time. They carried the payroll, and they eventually got paid, but they didn't get paid when they were supposed to. So it's a give and take, and I think we have a wonderful contractor community overall throughout the state. Most of them are family-owned businesses, and there are a few that have sold to larger corporate stockholder type arrangements, but most of them started as family businesses, and that's how they still operate. And they do a great job for this state, and I think that we should keep that in mind as we deliberate on how to administer our funds. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any other closing comments? Hearing none, I will adjourn the meeting.